guys, how's it going? In today's video, I want to talk about 5 different shrubs that offer up amazing fall interest. Now, I do have to start by saying that none of the varieties I have to show you today are actually in full fall color. It's a little bit early, so we're not quite there yet, but our nighttime temperatures have been dropping, so I'm starting to see a tinge of fall color on at least one of these varieties so far, so we'll get there pretty quick. But a big portion of gardening is planning for the future and planning to add things into every area of our garden that offer up something different so that every season we have something beautiful to look at. But I do think that all 5 of the varieties that I'll share with you today offer up multiple seasons of interest in terms of bloom, fall color, winter interest, beautiful leaves, all those different types of things. And so I really feel like they're all very unique and fun things. All 5 of them are also deer resistant. I thought I would throw that out there in the beginning so I didn't have to repeat it 5 different times. Being deer resistant doesn't mean a whole lot to me because I don't deal with deer in my garden, but I know a lot of you do. And I do believe that deer, if they're real hungry, they'll try anything, but these are known to be more resistant than some of the other things that you could possibly plant in your garden. Okay, the first one is called Legend of the Fall Bottlebrush, and I actually remember the moment I saw my first bottlebrush in fall color. Like, I actually had a moment with this plant. It was so striking and breathtaking and such vibrant colors, a mixture of bright red, bright orange, and bright yellow, and all the colors in between. Like, I think you could take every leaf off of one of the bottle brushes in fall color, line them up, and you wouldn't be able to pair 2 of the leaves together that were the same because they all look so different and so beautiful. So I'm really excited for these to be in fall color. I actually waited a couple of years to get my hands on this variety, so I'm super excited to get these planted in my garden. They grow about 4 to 5 feet tall and wide, and you really want to site them in a location in your garden where they can just grow to their full size, which makes it more low maintenance on your part, which is always nice, but they don't take to pruning very well. They don't want to be shaped up, they just want to grow. And they also bloom on old wood, so not needing to prune them is also nice because it's easier to mess up pruning a shrub that blooms on old wood and accidentally prune off your blooms for the next year than it is to prune something that blooms on new wood. So it's just good to plant these and just kind of leave them alone. Now, they do like a full sun spot in order to color up the best. So if you want the most prolific blooms, you want the most vibrant color, you want them in a sunny position, but they are fairly shade tolerant. So you can put them in a part shade area, you just might not get quite as many blooms or as vibrant a color. The blooms are white, kind of bottle brush shaped, and they smell like honey. So it's just a really fun shrub because you get the spring blooms and then you get these really pretty unique looking leaves. They almost kind of have a witch hazel look to them to me. And then you get that vibrant fall color. And lastly, they are a zone 5 through 9. So the second one I want to talk about, let me move these over a little bit so you can see it, is a Fineline buckthorn. These have a really interesting look to them. And this is a big one. That's why I have it sitting on the ground next to me. In fact, let me pick it up and show you. Look at this. It's already so tall. But I think that this particular plant provides a solution to a problem that a lot of people have. A lot of people need to create a screen or a privacy hedge in a really narrow flower bed, or you've got just this odd spot in your garden where you can't put anything that gets really big. This one will give you the height. It grows about 5 to 7 feet while staying narrow. It only grows about 2 to 3 feet wide. So I really like that there are different plants like that available to fit those particular spots in our garden. As far as fall color goes, it is like the most bright neon yellow you've ever seen. They are so absolutely beautiful. I was trying to explain to Aaron what I felt, like how I could describe this color, and it's like a beam of light because they grow in kind of that beam shape. If you had these kind of interspersed in a flower bed, it'd be like yellow spotlights just shining up from your flower bed. They're so beautiful. I do think that this would make a really fun centerpiece in a container too. I've seen people do that before, and I don't think I ever have, and I'm not sure why. Because you can get a hold of these in the spring, you know, enjoy them for their uniqueness throughout the season and this very fine texture, which you can also use in flower arrangements. And then enjoy the fall color. They're a zone 2 through 7. So it's likely that if you wanted to leave this in your container throughout the winter, it is so cold tolerant that it'll most likely survive easier than some of the other things that we try to get to winter over, like boxwoods and things that are rated at a zone 5. But these are just really winter hardy, tough plant. They're adaptable to a lot of different soil types, and they are fairly drought tolerant. They do perform better with consistent water, but once they're established, they can deal with a little bit less water than your average plant. All right, let me reorganize a little bit for the third one. We'll bring this one up onto the table. This is also a pretty good sized plant right here. This is called an Arctic yellow dogwood. This one's actually going to be available next year. And this is a yellow twig dogwood. So like your Arctic fire has your red twigs, which I have in my garden already, this offers a different look. It offers a bright yellow instead of the bright red, and it's fun to even have them planted near each other. I've seen people do that. I've seen some beautiful pictures where there's bright red and bright yellow all intermixed. It gives you an extra color to use to cut for winter arrangements too, which is also fun. Gives your winter arrangements a little bit of a different vibe. But this one here is actually another one that has bright yellow fall color. So you get your bright yellow fall color followed by the bright yellow stems. And then you do get spring blooms, white discs of spring blooms that are followed by berries, which, you know, they never act the same in their nursery containers as they will in your landscape, but I did see this one has a few little berries. Now this one is the most shade tolerant, I think, of most all of the shrubs that are out there. Like, you can pop this one in full sun, you can put it in shade, and it's still gonna do well. Now I don't know, I would guess that the fall color wouldn't be quite as vibrant. You may not get quite as many blooms, but it's nice to have the versatility where you can put it in full sun, or if you change your mind and decide, well, I only have this other shady area and I really need, you know, something in there that's nice and kind of fluffy, this is a really good option. It's also a zone 2 through 7, so incredibly winter hardy, great container option if you want, you know, some bright yellow stems. And the way you keep the stems on dogwoods the best color, like the most vibrant, and this goes for red twigs too, there's 2 different methods of pruning. You either go in every other year and cut them all the way back down to the ground, because they color up better on 1 to 2 year old stems and just let it grow back fresh that year. Or you can go in every year and cut out 1/3 of the oldest stems. So you either need to pick one of the other methods and just kind of keep on that schedule to keep your plant looking the most vibrant. Because as dogwoods age, the branches want to turn kind of woody and corky and a little bit more brown, and you just don't get the color from them like you do on the younger branches. The pros of doing it every other year and just cutting it all the way back is that it's way easier. You don't have to determine which ones are the oldest. You just go in and whack it down. But you do forfeit blooms if you do it that way just for that first year, because they bloom on old wood. So you'll cut off all the buds for blooms for the next year, which, you know, usually we're growing these for their stem color anyway and not as much for their bloom, so that really probably would make me very sad, and it keeps it very easy. If you do the other method, then you'll still have blooms. It's just a little bit more of a selective pruning process. So anyway, I think that this is a really fun one, and I'm excited for this one to be available next year. I think you can actually pre-order this one now. The 4th one is called a Temple of Bloom Heptakodium, which I have sitting right here to my left on a bucket because it's quite large. Let me show you. It's a good sized plant right here, kind of hard to have up on the table, but I think we can see it good enough, and we've got some pictures and things like that to share with you as well. But this one I think truly does provide 4 seasons of interest. So in the spring, when the leaves start to emerge, they're very deeply ribbed. They have a very unique look to them, and as the season progresses, the leaves get larger and they start to kind of turn or twist at the tip. So they have a very unique look. And then they start to bloom when everything else is just looking worn out. Usually, you know, about mid to late August, when everything is just kind of tired, done for the year, this one is like, it is my time to shine. I'm going to come out with these huge, like you can see all the buds right here. They come out with these huge panicles full of white blooms that the pollinators adore. They attract hummingbirds, honeybees, butterflies. In fact, when I went to go get this out of the high tunnel today, there was a bumblebee feeding on this one, which is always a special thing to see. So that's always fun to have different shifts of things that the pollinators really like to feed on. And then what happens, it's not so much about the leaves on this tree that create a fall show, it's more about the blooms. So they start blooming, you know, in August sometime, and then they hold on for weeks through most of the fall. And then when the leaves and the blooms themselves start to fall off, the bracts, or sepals technically, of the plant turn a vivid bright red, making the plant look like it's in bloom all over again. So it's just a really interesting texture to add in to one of your flower beds, because it's not typical, which is fun to have things that aren't typical like that. And then when all of that is done, you're left with the bark, which is really beautiful. It's like kind of like a papery peeling kind of look. So you get a really interesting look throughout the winter with that. So it is a zone 5 through 9, and it wants to grow about 6 to 10 feet tall and wide. And it kind of depends on how the grower has trained it, but typically you'll find it trained into a very small specimen tree, like kind of a multi-trunked tree. This one I need to do a little pruning pruning on to get it that way. Otherwise, I'll have a shrub. Either way, I think it would be really beautiful. And there's really no special care for this plant. I actually had a Heptakodium in my last garden and it did fantastic for us without any special care. I mean, if you want to prune it, you can do it in late winter, early spring, because it does start to form buds pretty quickly in the spring. You kind of want to get after it and do that. So, you know, I'll probably think about doing that this next spring just to kind of shape it up if I decide I want that kind of form out of this plant in my garden. And it does do the best in a sun to part sun location. And the last one I want to talk about today, I don't have an example to set in front of me and show you. I'm hoping to get one either this fall or early next spring before it blooms, but it's called a Spice Girl Korean Spice Viburnum. And viburnums as a whole, it's an amazing group of plants. I mean, they provide so much. Spring blooms, berries usually in the fall or late summer fall, and then amazing fall color. But the Korean spice viburnums, when they bloom in the spring, they have the most amazing fragrance. And not all viburnums do. Some viburnums to me don't have a very pleasing smell, but this one does. It's spicy and kind of a sweet smell. And they're clusters. They are kind of pink buds and they open to white and they last for quite a long time. You do have to have another one in the same family. So I think it's called a spice baby planted nearby in order to get berries if that's something that you're interested in. It'll still bloom, it just won't get berries if you don't have a pollinator close by. And then you get the beautiful bright red fall color. And the Spice Girl grows about 6 to 7 feet tall and wide. And it's one of those that you kind of want to just let do its thing as well. And it's not very particular about soil type. In fact, none of these are. They're all pretty adaptable and easy keepers in terms of soil, which we kind of need around here. And the Spice Girl is a pretty vigorous grower. And I can't remember, I think the zone is a 4 through 8. And that's it, you guys. Those are the 5 shrubs I wanted to talk about today. And I know it's a little early. I mean, it would have been ideal to have waited to share these plants until they were all in peak fall color, but it's still early enough in the season, at least where I'm at. It's early enough in the season to where we can still plant things in the ground. They'll still have time to root in. So, you know, if you're thinking you have areas in your garden where you need to plant some fall interest, some fall color, I just wanted to give you a little bit of inspiration, a few ideas. So when you go down to your garden center, you can be thinking along those lines. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.